Hey, hey everybody, everyone who is zero, because I have 0 watches right now, but I'm sure the numbers will pick up. I'll speak as if there are people there. So it's me, Robyn, again. I'm doing another animation review for the rookies. Today I'm going to be doing a review on the portfolio of Mile. I hope I pronounced your name right. I'm really sorry if I didn't. Let me just get your portfolio up on the screen here. There we go. Great, so it's a very impressive portfolio. Your work is beautiful. Got some really nice stuff here. And you're a player, if I'm correct. Your rank. Yes, joined as a player 7th May 2019. So yes, you have a beautiful portfolio. You should definitely be proud of it. It's very nice, and that's why this will probably be quite a short stream actually, because I looked through your stuff and it's amazing work. So well done. Let me just go over to Sync Sketch where I have some clips saved. Okay, there we go. It's up on the screen now. So let me play this clip through for you guys just to see it in all its glory. I mean, you can see the timing is lovely. His movements are so expressive and fluid. I love the bounciness that he has to his movements, and you can tell straight away that he's meant to be a mime. The acting is really great. It's got nice comedic timing and, that exaggeration. It's really, really nice. So let's stop it there and we can go through it a little bit more slowly. The first thing that sticks out to me, just like watching it through, not even really examining anything, is the tie. I mean, you can see that it's something that's controlled by a rig. You can see that it's not like cloth dynamics, because there is a certain rigidity to it. In certain points, it doesn't react quite the way you would expect it to his body movements. So for instance, here right at the beginning, you can see as he pulls up and it goes into that curve and then it flicks out quite suddenly, but it's in that quite rigid curve for quite a long time there. And then it flicks out. So, in some areas also it's rigid in some parts, and then in some other parts it reacts just a little bit too intensely to certain movements. I think around here, he kind of flicks forward and it flicks at the end there. Over here, you can see there where he raises his leg and the bottom sort of wiggles a bit, but the rest of it's quite rigid. So just little things like that. Ties are very difficult to animate. And I mean, for the most part, it's very good. You wouldn't probably notice too much, but if it's something that you are looking at when you're looking for things to critique or give feedback on, it's one of those things that do stand out first. So when he first raises his hand over here, it's quite stiff as it comes up. And it could do well. It almost looks like his wrist is broken there. And it's nice to try and remember to have sort of aesthetic curves and stuff to your movements. I mean, obviously, sometimes a character will be a lot more like hard-edged and jagged and rigid, and, that'll go with their character. But on the whole, this guy has quite fluid movements. And things like that very rigid hand sticking up like that with that very sharp sort of angle at his wrist there, that sort of thing stands out quite a lot then. So it would do well for this shot to have the wrist not as bent so rigidly there at the wrist, have it more as a sort of a attractive curve. And you can also have the fingers curved a bit there. you know, as you raise your hand, your fingers are usually, you know, bent as you're raising it because it's down here and then they come up, and then as they reach out for the hat, that's when they will flex, and there's a nice counter movement to that. So first they're rounded like this, and then as they're reaching, they flex out, and it's a nice juxtaposition to give to the action. So I would just have it rounded like that, and then as he reaches for the hat, then it comes up in anticipation to grab the hat. Now when he reaches for the hat over there, his hand is cupped quite rigidly a little too early. So it would still be reaching out with the hands flexed at this point if you're imagining a hat being there. I know there's no actual hat there, but if you just look at the movement, you can see that there isn't really that anticipation here. It's kind of just gone straight into the movement to grab that hat. So I would have the fingers not so much like a claw here. Let's go to sort of there. It would be more sort of reaching towards, if you've got a hat, let's pretend there's a hat here, whatever sort of hat he decides to wear. So the palm would actually be facing more towards the hat, I would imagine, and the fingers a little bit more splayed. You could even try to get in some more negative space here. At the moment, the fingers are quite closely together. You can maybe have the pinky a little bit bent just for a bit of, you know, a bit of interest to the shot, rather than all the fingers doing the exact same thing at the exact same time the entire time, and sort of already having grabbed the hat before they would have grabbed the hat, if you know what I mean. They're in that pose already for having grabbed the hat before they actually have. So there are little parts where the feet feel a little bit neglected as well. This is good, you know, when he's bobbing back and forth, that's really great, and I love that. But then there are other parts where he sort of lifts his foot, which frame over here. So you can see, when I slow it down, you can see what I mean, I'm sure. His foot should still be on the ground and like right on the toe there. There should just be a little more roll to the foot, like a foot roll as he's lifting his foot, and a little more rotation to that ankle as he brings his foot up. So it shouldn't be as rigidly, you know, sit in the exact same pose as he's lifting it. You need to have a little bit of a foot roll as he lifts his foot there. And also maybe just be aware of the weight as he's transferring his weight onto the other leg. I know, again, it's cartoony, it's comedic. I mean, you can see by the bend in that leg there, it's not meant to be completely true to real life. We're not doing a super realistic animation here, but there are just certain things that make it feel just a little off that would just help it a little bit more. This is really great how he's sort of wobbling and his fingers are going, you know, and his arms are also waving a little bit as he kind of steadies himself on his foot. That's awesome, and I really love that part there. And this very cartoony sort of squash bounce thing you've got going on is really great too. And the timing there is really, really good. It's also really cute how he sort of, I don't know, sees somebody there or something and does his little wave at the end with his fingers. I also really love that. So on the whole, it's a really great shot. I mean, the things that I'm saying here are just, you know, if you want to get really down into the nitty-gritty and give some feedback on stuff that maybe you wouldn't have noticed before, but it's a really great shot. So let me go to this one, play it through for you. So this is a really cute one. He reminds me of like a puppy, when you're training a puppy and you like put food in front of them and you want them to wait before they start eating. And they're like looking at you with their puppy dog eyes and you're like, no, wait. And they're like waiting so diligently for you. It's really cute. It's very expressive. You've got the emotions done really well here. So again, another really great shot. But I am going to give it some critiquing because that's why we're here, isn't it? So I feel like there's a little too much squash here. in the face. I mean, there are other ways you can, bring that anticipatory expression to his face than squashing, I would imagine. I mean, I haven't looked at the rig, but you don't want a character's skull to feel like a stress ball or like clay, especially because you've got such beautiful facial animation here. It's so expressive. You're focusing on his face. So stuff like that kind of stands out quite a bit then when his skull is so bouncy. And I know, again, this is like quite an over-exaggerated, cartoony shot, but it's better to save stuff like that for shots where you're not looking directly at the thing that is squashing or stretching, if you know what I mean. So it's great for limbs in like a really quick movement or something. But for a skull, when you're looking at the face, it stands out quite a lot then. So here you've got it actually happening when he goes down and comes up. You've got a bit of a squash there, and that works really great there because it's not something that, is a slow movement. It's a very quick movement, and it's really effective there. So I like how he's drumming his fingers on the table. That's a really nice little detail, but the fingers could be offset a little more. I see that the hands are offset, but the fingers themselves just a little, and you could maybe have like the pinkies curled a little bit more than the other fingers. And also here where he clasps his fingers, I would just offset each finger just slightly. And I also noticed that the facial expressions twin quite a lot, and it's always good to bring in the offsetting even into the facial expression. So like the eyebrows, they wouldn't move at the exact same pace, and the expressions are quite symmetrical. So I would at times have it a little more obvious. You can see over here the eyebrows are a little different, but I'll just offset the timing a little more, especially in this beginning shot. They're twinning a lot and they're very symmetrical. So I would even just have one eyebrow slightly higher than the other, and like in slightly different positions. It doesn't need to be anything too obtrusive, but just to give like a little more interest to the shot there. I see you've got it happening there with the mouth. The side of the mouth is slightly higher than the other, which is really great. I love how he hunches over and he's got his shoulders up like that in excitement. And like the little details, like the breathing and stuff like that, really give the shot a lot of life. I love it. It's really cute. Over here, I would just, when he turns his head to the side, there's no actual anticipation to this movement. So it almost takes you as like by surprise, because there's no anticipation. There's nothing telling you like that. It seems like maybe there's somebody standing off camera who like speaks to him or greets him or says, give us a wave or something like that, but there's nothing actually indicating that. I would have his eyes first dot to the side. So whenever you imagine this person would say something, his eyes would react first. They would dot to the side. And then his head would follow, then his shoulders, then the rest of the body, in a sort of cascading effect downwards. So I would just offset those movements a little bit there, because at the moment it's kind of like eyes, head, everything kind of happening at once. The fingers there are really nice, how they are sort of cascading down like that. The pinky curled a little bit more than the rest. So I would just bring the same sort of effect, not as much, because I get what you want to do here is have something very much like the twinning, but it just feels a little, like just a little bit of offsetting in the fingers would help the shot a little bit there. But again, I mean, it's an awesome shot. So this is just me being picky here. And it's just, what I feel would help. So this is another shot, Parkour. I picked this one because Parkour is, well, it's a standard that a lot of people animate. It's because it's really difficult. And this is done really well again. I mean, there's some really nice complicated movements. For the most part, the spacing and timing is quite good. There are some areas where it could be tightened up just a little bit. It does feel a bit floaty in some areas. You know, there's, you know, things that could be done a little bit more with, you know, speeding in some parts, like over there, for instance, where he pushes off, could be a little faster there, and the pose is just a little awkward, and he could maybe, you're kind of lacking that momentum and that weight of him having pushed off the wall there a little bit. I feel like he could go in a bit closer to the wall just so that it gives it more weight as he pushes off and push off a lot faster. And I would just watch things like the limb angles. So like his arm there is a little awkward as he pushes off. And I would just bring this as into more of an arc. This movement of his hand should have like a nice smooth arc over. At the moment, it sort of just collapses in on itself, and the elbow goes to a really awkward angle there. And it's looking a bit claw-like and quite untidy. So I would bring that over in a nice smooth arc. As his hand comes over here to grab the wall, now I've drawn over it. Let me just erase that so you can see this claw hand. So if you bring your arm into an arc, in theory, by about here, it would be like, why is it not, oh, I'm still on eraser. So it would be like here, and you should have like a bit of offset over there on the hand, like some sort of follow through on the hand there. So the hand's lagging back there, and then it comes over in a smooth arc to slap onto the wall, and that'll give it a little bit more impact. So it's actually, you know, the wrist is bent back until the last second, and it kind of slaps onto the wall and then grabs onto the wall. Over here, it seems like there's a bit of a snap to the leg. It goes straight, and then it comes and bends again. It's usually good practice to avoid that limb snapping. Oh gosh, what did I do now? Ah, go away. Go away. What's happening? No, I don't want more. Sorry, I just had a weird pop-up on my computer. I don't know if you guys actually saw that, but that's what happened. What was I saying? Oh, the snapping, the limb snapping. So you've got his leg there, and it's straight. It's better to avoid a limb ever being actually straight, because you can see it's actually overextending a little there where it stretches, and then it will snap back into the bend. So it's better to try and avoid it ever being, you know, locked straight. Always have a slight bit of a bend to especially knees. I mean, arms and elbows, you know, sometimes you need it to be straight, but especially for knees, it's better not to have it locked into that completely straight at any given time, because then you will get that popping of that limb. So here where the hand comes off, I feel like it's a little bit premature there. The hand could still be holding on actually here, even in theory. And then he could bend in closer to the wall and push off again. Because you're not really sure here actually what is giving him that momentum to go. I feel like it's probably this foot here, because that's the last thing touching the wall. But he doesn't really shoot forward from that. If he's pushing off from this leg, you would expect the trajectory to go a little further that way, and then for that leg to straighten a little. And I would just again watch arcs. So this hand could actually come out a little bit further away from his body at the moment, because also he'd be anticipating grabbing onto something. So his arm would kind of come around him in an arc to grab the thing behind him. And at the moment, it's staying quite close to his body. Those are very nice. I like the cartoony effect here of the bending and the stretching. And then you add this again coming off here. Feel like it's kind of lacking an arc. He's kind of just shooting forward straight. And if he's coming from here, he would go forward. He would kind of swing, you know? He wouldn't just shoot forward that way. Otherwise, I mean, your shots are great. You definitely know what you're doing. And these are just some further like comments and criticisms to take going forward. So I hope that that helped you guys. It's nice to get, you know, a variety of different, you know, experience levels and stuff to look at, because often they'll get a lot of different sorts of critiques. Thanks for joining me. I see I have 10 watches now. Much better than 0. It was a little bit awkward sitting talking to myself, so I appreciate it. Thank you. I hope that that was, you know, informative. Okay, awesome. I see it did help a lot. Good. I'm very glad. Awesome. I'm glad it was very informative. That makes me happy and makes me feel like validated. So thank you. You guys can submit on the rookies form if you want to have your portfolios looked at and get some feedback and stuff on them. Hope you guys have a good rest of your week. Thanks for joining me tonight. Peace out.